have photos of top Rothschild family members wearing Baphomet necklaces at sporting events. I mean, old women with giant chains around their neck and in a $5,000 gown with Baphomet. I mean, this is what they're into, because it's all about, you're animals, we're going to eat you. See, they don't just kill us, they embrace it. Now, I give you Fritz Springmeier, author of Bloodlines, the Illuminati. He's going to speak about 30 minutes, then we'll open the phones up in the last 45. But he joins us today. Fritz Springmeier, Bloodlines, the Illuminati, available at Infowars.com. And when I read this, it had to be, I don't know, 99 or so. I don't remember. I was sent a copy, been on air a few years. I was like, this can't be true. But then over the years, so much of it turned out to be true. I mean, I was there at Bohemian Grove when they were doing the mock ritual of killing a child. And the old men, I was like, oh, this is interesting. They were like, be quiet. And they were just going like, I mean, this was religious. I mean, I've been in Baptist churches and Holy Rolling churches growing up, folks, and these people were getting off on it more than Christians worshiping God. I mean, they were in rapture. Fritz Springmeier, good to have you here with us, my friend.
Thank you, Alex. Good to be with you and all your listeners.
Do you agree or disagree with anything I just said in the last 10 minutes?
I thought you were doing a good job of covering things.
Okay, I'm going to just do something different.
Don't have a problem with it.
Well, thank you, my friend. I'm going to, this segment and the next few, I'm going to just sit back, whatever issues you want to cover about the ruling elite, the families, who they are, whatever direction you want to go in. I know you sent some photos that we're going to put on screen. Radio listeners can later go to Infowars.com. We'll post the videos by tomorrow of this interview so people can check this for themselves. But you've got the floor, Fritz.
Okay, well, thank you. You mentioned a couple things that were related to what I had in mind. One is, as you mentioned, Philip de Rothschild, and I wanted to bring out some of the misconceptions about the Illuminati. And one of the misconceptions is that the Rothschilds are a European phenomenon, but the Philip de Rothschild, she and her husband, the Baron, went into business with Robert Mondavi down in Napa Valley, California. So we've got Rothschilds all across the United States. That family is not just a European phenomenon. And you're going to show a picture of her that you have. So that's great. I also wanted to discuss along that line some of the other misconceptions that people have about the Illuminati. One of them is that all of these members in the Illuminati are kingpins in the Illuminati. That's sort of like imagining that within a tribe, all of them are chiefs. It's not the case. Some of these people are just low-level flunkies. It's just like an analogy is like there's millions of gods in Hinduism. You know, you have Vishnu and Tara and Shiva and Kali, but a lot of these, the majority of gods, nobody's even heard of them. They're obscure. So some of these illuminated members of the Illuminati are not kingpins in any shape or form. They're not all chiefs in this tribe. But your pillars of society are very oftentimes Illuminati, and that's one of the misconceptions too that people have is, you know, when we get into discussing these people, you know, we can look at the dark side of them, like you were bringing out. There's a dark side to them. But to make another analogy, when Christians read the Bible and they read about the Pharisees, they see all the negative things that Christ said about them. Oh, these people are snakes, you know. And they think that the Pharisees were just horrible. But if you lived back then, who were the Pharisees? They were the people's role models. A Pharisee had a lot of power. He was the equivalent of several things wrapped up in one. Not only was he the equivalent of a Supreme Court justice, but also a congressman and the head of a Bible college.
And a judge.
And plus and they had the reputation of somebody like Billy Graham. So these were the people that a mother would want her child to emulate. I want my son to grow up to be like that Pharisee, you know. And so we're dealing with the same thing today. These Illuminati kingpins, a lot of them are pillars in society. Some of them, their occupation is philanthropist. A philanthropist, that means he spends his time giving money away. So it's not like they're not doing good deeds. It's not like that, like they're just
Fritz, let me stop you. Fritz, your Skype.
Them making decisions.
Fritz, your Skype's breaking up a bit. It was great last week. We may have to reconnect. I even skipped the break here to give you time, but then it started breaking up. But just to be clear, Bill Gates put his $80 billion in a tax-free foundation. It makes money, and now it's tax-free, and he's buying up big pharma, everything, and living off of it, and then using what money, the profit it makes, to steer society. But then we're told, oh, he's giving to us. Yeah, he's giving us poison GMO.
Yes, their giving is within their own self-interests and promotes their agendas.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's not altruistic like we might think. Can you hear me better?
Yes,
now?
you're better now. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. So, just letting people realize that they're the ones who created this system. They're making a large share of the important decisions of this system. If they were to evaporate and all disappear, we would not have the system like we have it today, because they play an important role in things. Unfortunately, a lot of the agendas and decisions that they're making are really scary. If they were to all disappear tomorrow, I feel confident we wouldn't have such large wars like the Cold War, World War II, World War I. These were manufactured wars that they created. And one of the things that people read about in the Bloodlines book, they will see the document there that the Secretary of the Treasurer Morgenthau and FDR put into law on December 13th, 1941, a few days after Pearl Harbor. They very quietly made this law that allows certain people to trade with the enemy. And who were the types of people that could trade with the enemy? Onassis, Rockefeller. Oh, these people are Illuminati kingpins making big bucks off of World War II. There were like 450 Greek ships prior to World War II. Almost all of them were sunk at some point or the other in different places around the world by the two sides, because we had a world war going on. However, Aristotle Onassis' ships were never attacked, no matter where they were sailing, and they sailed to all parties.
Let me just stop you. Let me just stop you. Guys, you can pull up while he's talking, because this is so key. Only Halliburton was allowed under the sanctions in the last decade plus to sell oil-filled equipment to Iran. And the same thing, they were allowed with a handful of groups to sell to Saddam. They put the sanctions in to shut down all their competition. It's the same trick. You have to know what page of the book that document's on. I want to show it to people.
Correct. It's, I don't right offhand because I don't have a copy.
I'll look in the bibliography. What would that be under? Trading with the Enemy? I'll look it up. Keep going.
So we have wars that are created, manufactured wars. And you got a lot of the storylines. I just laugh because they remind me of Back to the Future and Biff. You know, you have this, like Aristotle Onassis. His family was from Turkey, and he goes to Argentina as about, I think he was like 19 when he went to Argentina, Buenos Aires, and he was washing dishes and arrived as a refugee, penniless. And within a year, he was a millionaire. And people say, well, he just worked long hours at washing dishes. What was their family involved in back in Turkey? Well, it was applying opium. And there's a group of men in Europe that have made decisions, the Council of 300 men, wise men, that for a couple centuries at least have made the decisions for Europe. And they decided which families would be allowed to trade in the opium. One of the families that they decided that they would allow to become rich was the Astor family. So we have another Biff in Back to the Future story where we have this guy, John Jacob Astor the First, and I sent you a picture of him. The guy was a butcher helping his dad, and then he comes to America. And his brother in New York City was given a monopoly by the British when they were controlling New York City during the American Revolution. He was given a monopoly by the British to supply the beef for the British Army that occupied New York City during the war. What a lucrative monopoly. And strangely, nobody ever wonders or questions someone like John Jacob Astor about his British affiliations. You would think that after Americans had fought a war against Britain, that they would be suspicious of.
Well, let me back you up on this. Let me back you up. It's admitted with Skull and Bones. We're going to reconnect after the break with you on Skype to make sure it's a little bit clearer, but most of it's clear, Fritz. But key information: the trading with the enemy, type stuff. Look at Skull and Bones. Look at the Bushes, the main U.S. agents of the Nazis allowed to get away with it, backing up what you've said. And that's what they say about Skull and Bones and the documents that have been leaked. You're given money and power, but you're told it's always given to the group, and you're going to be given this money, but only to control it for the collective. And that's like Bill Gates, his dad's Army intelligence, some out of nowhere head of Planned Parenthood, big eugenicist. His son is then given, we've now documented, technologies that were there, allowed to have the monopoly for a while. IBM gives it away to him. That run by Watson, the big eugenicist, who said in his deathbed, we've got to set up all these subsidiaries so that we get around the laws on monopolies. I mean, you just see it. And yeah, here's that document where all the big U.S. companies were allowed to fund Hitler right through the war. And I've talked to pilots, and most of them are dead now, but it's on record, that they couldn't bomb the General Motors and Ford plants in Germany that were making the tanks our troops were fighting. The whole thing was a New World Order war against humanity.